Annual war from Tupper, Lug, Glug, U, Tez, the Zorg. Friday, June 20th, 2025, 7:42 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time is the moment of the summer solstice. And so the nearest sunset starts Ara Litha. And some words that we may look at that relate to the chant that we just heard for that is Cesarg or Cesarg is stone. A sigil, a verse, a card, and the like is enwel. And a disincarnate spirit is Tez. The chant for Galbni, which will be particular to this program, is Vammahabaksleev Tez Ease Yemmer Gvolps Veer Veer Oz. And so Gvolps is death, Huffixleave is presence, the drill sergeant Gray Nexian chant is Lum Huffixleave Wo Gupti Haziram Zepti. And so heaven, hell, gray, presence, drill, hour. Did I mention that Sazi means dead? The dead. Rum means knowledge. Well, Huffixleave and Avec are similar, but Huffixleave refers to the possession, and Avec is more to the presence of the whole thing. But Zepti is the edge, transcendence, and that sort of stuff. And you'll notice on her stone, we have on the right, we have the symbol for the homeland and defense. On the left, that rune. And I already did a video about receiving this particular Galbani sigil. So this is the one that we will use in my particular related stuff. But punish it is the 8-word chant said 88 times. And this relates, of course, very particular numbers. And my 14-word chant, we must strive for the future and existence of our people and our children. And yeah, for the existence and future of our people and our children. And I used Bluebird this time around in composing this. I also used Celebrate Wildness. Our platforms are raised and hidden in recesses as our code requires. Outer action and secrets each professes is made official by what is raised for the irrepressible and primal. The positive and negative interact in the presence of stone. As a snake and as an egg, we roam and return for initiation. We live in the immersion of the representations and directions. Synchronicities tell us about the wilderness's spirits. We give all in reciprocity, as what presences here is beyond fits and the toil. The inner and outer is drawn to the surfaces. In life and death is the breakthrough of accumulations. Dawn is a time of retreat for some. They are known in the horror of the black sun. With air, water, fire, and earth, it has begun. For those who have changed from natural tints and hues, here is what must be worked through in the organization. The chemical agents will be a test by the great demon's cult in the Appalachian wilderness. The affection for the developmental is genuine in the beyond conventional implementation. The black flags unveil the experimental network beyond the nation. Beyond blasphemy and hallucination, there is more than the biblical. Into our sleep is the disturbance from our rations. In death, destruction, and any shade of darkness, some remain hidden. The programming completes itself in the agents of what moves beyond humans. We work from the greater pilgrimage of secret transmissions. A philosophical change occurs at the realization of intentions. The time is not always for visions, but to embody through actions. As we direct towards the portal, beings find the representative personnel. The merely planetary will die in the sacrificial. By increasing degrees in the manifestation, by the physical symbols, psychological processes, progress, and the spiritual devotion, we are privileged to have access to the degrees of approach. The many cults are subservient to that of the great demon. Beyond the imprinting of beliefs, actions, and experiences, one comes beyond ritual. The point of no return arrives with a transcendental consciousness at the end of poisoned and debauched labyrinths. Without reproach, our forms are positioned from waves on waves until it is totally the midnight of the darkest winter upon our origin. And so to represent of the themes there and connect to the power of the usage in previous nations. I mean, they try to say they're contemporary, but it's really about previous formulas. We have Ezra 6:21, Ezekiel 13:24, 22:15, 22:23, Zechariah 13:2, Matthew 10:1 and 12:43, Mark 1:23, 26:27, 3:1 and 30, 5:2, 8:13, 6:7, 7:25, 9:25, Luke 4, 33, and 36, 6, 18, 8, 29, 9, 42, 11, 24, Acts 5, 16, 8, 7, 10, 14, 28, and 11, 8, 1 Corinthians 7, 14, 2 Corinthians 6, 17, Ephesians 5, 5, Revelations 13, 16, 13, 17, 4, and 18, 2. Oh, and by the way, Rumtuffer is a word that means guide. And from the Quran, 260, 264, 53, 7, 154, and 160, 18, 9, 23, and 63, 19, 46, 31, 16, 36, 18, 44, 20. And as for the tools of the trade, we have some interesting ones, I guess. These are my personal ones that I will have out. And so we have the Scourge, so 88 with that. And you notice the little owls on that. A lot of people associate that with Moloch. So that fits enough there. We have the little bit with the sigils. We have the Order of Nine Angles symbol because Temple of Blood came out of the Order of Nine Angles. We have the, I don't think it's showing up here. We have our Solomonic triangle of fire. It's a scrying thing. We have a golden looking chain. I know it's not real gold, definitely wouldn't be wandering around in the woods, something that cost thousands of dollars like that. But well, I can't say what, but you know what I mean. I probably wouldn't. But that's a carnelian point, and what is it? 13 points technically, 6 and then 6 for the point and the other. We have an Enochian Pele ring. We have our 2 tetrahedron sort of like stones. One is a citrine, basically. I consider that a seasonal stone, and anything related to Order of Nine Angles, I basically give my agate bloodstone. I have a Lotus Sutra ring, and I think that's more or less it with that. But they're symbolic touch points. I've acquired them over time. And of course, something particular to members of this order, I've given out little pendants of, specifically to the Drill Sergeant Gray Nexion, is that particular flag with that particular chant. And the symbol is universal. The pathways are universal. Of course, Temple of Blood is not limited to only those pathways. And so punish it 88 times. We must strive for the existence and future of our people and our children. That's going to vary. Ainwo, War, Rumtuffer, Log, Log, Tezis, Sibib, Cesarg. I don't know, that may vary per candle and times of particular things we're going to use. That will be the seasonal one. And I'm not sure how many times with the Vum, Avixliv, Tezis, Is, Hiemer, Gvolps, Zer ver azeh Galpany chant. Now, let's start our selections in Tanakh. Ezra or Azra 6:21. The children of Israel who had returned from the exile, together with all who joined them in separating themselves from the uncleanness of the nations of the lands to worship God as a verb and noun. The deity over Israel ate of it. And Gui means the turning of the back. So it's not just there of another nation or something like that, too. But definitely there are some disturbing things about eating related to the Iron Gates Bluebird trilogy and the going out and that sort of stuff. So we deal with a different order with Tanakh versus the Old Testament. But Ezekiel, which is an interesting one because of, you know, the fact that its name is Yitches All, right? You might never guess that if you didn't know that Yitches All is Ezekiel. But Ezekiel 13:24. And okay, kind of merges over. You'll no longer practice divination or lies, and I'll save my people from your hands, and you shall know that I am God as a verb and noun. And Ezekiel 22:15. The numbering is a little bit different in some text versus others. But 22:15 approximates as I will scatter you among the nations and disperse you through the lands, and I will consume the uncleanness out of you. Okay, I was looking for the word a particular word for unclean, and so I used that in our selections. 22:23. The word of increasing existence came to me. O mortal, say to her, you're an unclean land, not to be washed with rain on the day of indignation. And Zechariah 13:2. And the word for Zechariah is pretty close. Zechariah. In that day 2 declares God is a verb and noun over hosts. I'll erase the very names of the idols of the land, and they shall not be uttered anymore. And I'll make the prophets, those are just called prophets, and the unclean spirit vanish from the land. because things are too much about a particular name or culture or whatever. And the time for that's going to come to an end. It's going to come to an end somehow, right? Bibelia is where the next sections are from. And respond to these as you wish. Use them with your own beliefs and intentions. I'm not saying you have to believe this according to any particular church or synagogue or whatever's interpretation. I'm just saying that these are the points of historical scriptural reference that I'm bouncing this off of. Matthew 10:1, and having called to him 12 disciples, he gave to them authority over spirits unclean, so that the cast, while making them carcists, right? To cast them out and to heal every disease and every bodily weakness. Isaiah 12, not Isaiah 12, Matthew 12:43. But when the unclean spirit is gone out of the man, he goes through waterless places seeking rest and finds it not. Well, sometimes people, they get their nourishment through evil and they don't know how to get it otherwise. Let us remember that the material existence is sort of neutral. It can be used any way, right? Until it's, you know. So Mark 1:23. Oh, very close here. And there was in their synagogue a man with an unclean spirit, and he cried out. Don't think just because you're at a place of worship that things are, 126, and having thrown into convulsion him, the spirit, and the unclean, having cried with a voice loud, came forth out of him. 27. And were astonished everyone, so that they questioned together among themselves, saying, what is this? What teaching of a new sort is this, that with authority even the spirits that are the unclean he commands, and they obey him? And Matthew, we're in Mark, right? Mark 3:1. And he entered again into the synagogue, and there was a man withered, having his hand. And 3:30. Because they said, an unclean spirit he has. Well, there is medical issues that have nothing to do with psychosomatic control from evil spirits, but that's how things might go sometimes. Mark 5:2, and having gone forth out of the ship, immediately met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. Well, people considered visiting the graveyards an unclean thing, or taking care of the graves, or anything related to that even. Just walking through a memorial park, it's like, I understand if you step on something, but come on. But certainly necromancy can do something to one's spirit, that regardless of physical occurrence, right? Mark 8:13, and having left them, having entered again into the ship, he went away to the other side. Remember, the other side is sometimes used as a reference for, the spiritual world. So that's why I throw that one in. Mark 6:7. Skipped over that one, didn't I? And he calls to him the 12, and began them to send forth two and two, and gave to them authority over the spirits, the unclean ones. It's like, how's authority over the unclean spirits, right? That sounds suspect, doesn't it? If Jesus is supposed to be, as the church says 725 in Mark. Having heard, or a woman about him, of whom had her little daughter a spirit unclean, having come, fell at his feet. And 925 from Mark. But seeing Jesus that was running together, a crowd rebuked the spirit, the unclean, saying to it, Spirit dumb and deaf, I command, come out of him, and no more mayest thou enter into him. So Luke is where our next choices are from. And feel free to comment about any of these as you want. Whether you agree or not, it's not necessary to blaspheme. And if you blaspheme, there's going to be comments pulled and stuff. So leave comments that you can share. But Luke 4:33. And in the synagogue was a man having a spirit of a demon unclean, and he cried out with a voice loud. And remember, I'm going to be saying this in Aramaic, biblical Hebrew, as people like to call it, Greek, and the next set of selections is going to be in Arabic. 436 in Luke. And came astonishment upon all, and they spoke one to another, saying, What word is this that with authority and power he commands the unclean spirits, and they come out? Now, sometimes unclean spirits don't want to put up with all that churchy stuff, so that's what you're bringing, right? Luke 6:18. And those beset by spirits unclean, and they were healed. Okay, 8:29 of Luke. For he was charging the spirit, the unclean, to come out from the man, for many times it had seized him, and he was bound with chains and fetters, being kept, and breaking the bonds, he was driven by the demon into the desert. And remember the thing in the dogma of Angramania thing, the charging bit being brought up here. I mean, it's not the same thing, but it's along the same lines, right? Luke 9:42. But yet, as he was coming near, dashed down him the demon and threw him into convulsions and rebuked Jesus, the spirit, the unclean, and healed the child and gave back him to his father. And okay. And Luke 11:24. When the unclean spirit is gone from the man, he goes through waterless places seeking rest, and not finding any, he says, I will return to my house whence I came out. And Acts 5:16. Came together also the multitude of the roundabout cities to Jerusalem, bringing sick ones, and those beset by spirits unclean, who were healed, all of them. Acts 8:7. Well, certainly healing isn't limited to whether you're spiritually clean or not, right? 8:7 is, for of many of those who had spirits that were unclean, crying with a loud voice, they went out, and many, having been paralyzed and lame, were healed. Sometimes that sort of stuff happens because that's how the entity gets deeper control over people, but people kind of don't understand that much. 9:42. Oh, wait, that's not read from the wrong lines. Um, I may have repeat by accident here. I got slightly lost, so excuse me. Acts 11:8. But I said in no wise, Lord, for anything common or unclean never entered into thy mouth. Acts 10:14. But Peter said, in no wise, Lord, for never did I eat anything common or unclean. And of course, that's the vision that makes clear that it's not that you get to eat garbage, it's that the symbolism involved. Um, Acts 10:28, and he said to them, ye know how unlawful it is for a man, a Jew, to unite or to come near to one of another race. And to me, O God, showed me no common or unclean to call man. Okay, so that's the point. It's not about some silly ancestral feuds or whatever. Um, Acts 8:7. I know it's an Acts, but I kind of read from the long run. For many of those who had spirits unclean, crying with a loud voice, they went out, and many, having been paralyzed, were healed. I think I got that. And 5:16. Coming together, also the multitude of round about the cities to Jerusalem, bringing sick ones and those beset by spirits unclean, who were healed, all of them. Um, and so First Corinthians 7:14. And God, both the Lord raised up, and us will raise out by his power. Oh wait, no, that's 6:14. Okay, that doesn't sound like a verse I would have chose. 6:14 is sanctified for the husband unbelieving in the wife, and is sanctified the wife unbelieving in the husband. Else your children unclean are, but now holy are. Well, it matters how the children are raised versus anything like, oh, are both the parents in agreement. Now, there shouldn't be the conflict. You should try to not have the conflict about what spiritual side or whatever you're going to choose, but there can be differences in jurisprudence and that sort of stuff. 2 Corinthians 6:17. Wherefore come out from the midst of them, and be separated, says the Lord, and the unclean touch not, and I will receive you. Now, there's different ways to interpret Lord, right? Which type of Lord? Um, Ephesians 5:5. For this ye know, that any fornicator or unclean person or covetous who is an idolater has not inheritance in the kingdom of the Christ and of God. Well, Christ being, the anointed. Um, and fornicator means any of those five acts, not just coitus outside of marriage. You know, the other four too. Um, Let me hear no technical virgin garbage in the in the comment sections. Um, you're supposed to be smarter than that if you're paying attention to my channel. 2:6. I'm saying I'm too much. But from the Quran, the formulas used are 260, which approximates. And remember Moses, when Moses asked for water for his people, we told him to strike the rock with the staff, and behold, 12 springs of gushing water gushed forth, so that each of the tribes came to know its place of drinking, eat and drink. enjoy God's gifts and spread no discord in the land. Now there's a lot of Discord servers. I'm finally back on Discord. Um, no, but those fascists that excluded me, I paid to join their server, but how silly was that? But the 264 creation of the heavens and the earth, alternation of night and day, and sailing of ships across the ocean, and what is useful to a person, and the rain that a causal sends from the sky, enlivening the earth that was dead. Remember, we're working with, the earth was dead. The whole thing about Bluebird and Iron Gates involves the whole post-apocalyptic, as they might call it, destruction by nuclear war, the survivors, and thriving off the dead, and all that sort of stuff. But the scattering of beasts of all kinds upon it, and the changing of the winds and the clouds which remain obedient between the earth and the sky, and surely those are signs for the wise. That was 164. Did I 60 was the miracle of Moses? Yeah, and that miracle, well, let's not go too far in distinctions, but one of the miracles of Muhammad that was the water coming forth from his fingers. And some people say, well, that's greater than because rocks is like people who aren't even prophets might knock open a rock with some water in it. Let's not go into such nitpicking as that. So 5:3, forbidden to use carrion and blood and the flesh of the swine, the things with the cow. It's not just pigs, but it's the taloned and clawed and fanged animals that eat meat of the land and all that. And whatsoever has been killed in the name of some other than a causal, and whatever has been strangled or killed by a blow or a fall, or by goring, or that has been mauled by wild beast, unless slaughtered while still alive. So you can put the animal out of its misery and eat it. And that which has been slaughtered on altars forbidden, and also divided the meat by casting lots and arrows. All this is sinful. Today, the unbelievers have lost hope of your creed, so don't fear them, fear me. I perfected your system of belief and bestowed my favors upon you in full, and have chosen the surrender as a creed for you. If one of you is driven by hunger without the intent of sinning, then the causal is forgiving and kind. And, well, it's a go figure. If you do what you have to do to survive, right? And who cares what others are going to think? What you believe, what you've decided is what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do, right? 754, when his anger subsided, Moses picked up the tablets, because in this version he didn't destroy them. Inscribed on them was guidance and grace for those who fear their Lord. Now, in this case, we're referring to Lord as in terms of divinity. And 760, we divided them into 12 tribes. When his people asked for water, we said to Moses, strike the rock with your staff, and behold, 12 springs of water gushed forth, so that each of the tribes had a place of its own to drink. And we made the clouds spread shade over them, and sent for them manna and quails, saying, eat of the good things we have provided for you. But they did not harm us, they harmed themselves. And that's the thing. Whether others obey or not, any particular religious thing or spiritual thing, it's, hey, they're the ones missing out. Oh, I went to the wrong one. 18:9. Oh, it's because the rock thing, right? Do you think the men of the cave and the inscription were so strange among our signs? 18:23. Do not say of anything, I will do it tomorrow. Well, don't procrastinate. In 1863, he said, "You see, I forgot the fish on the rock where we had stopped. Only Satan made me forget to mention this, but the wonder is the fish escaped to the sea." 1946. He said, "Are you averse? My God, so Abraham, if you do not desist, I will have you stoned to death. So go away a while from me." And so somebody who was threatened with stones are like, no. Of course, there's that passage about the fire for those whose fuel is men and stones. And oh, where's that? Maybe it's something linguistic that I did not include that, right? Because 224 is, but if you cannot, as indeed you cannot, then guard yourself against the fire, whose fuel is people and rocks, which has been prepared for those who cover the reality. I don't know, I may decide to include of that. 31:16. O my son, whatsoever it may be, even though equal to a mustard seed in weight, or within a rock, or in the sky, or in the earth, the causal will bring it out. Certainly, the causal is perceptive and all aware. 36:18. They rejoined, "We feel you augur ill, and if you do not desist, we shall stone you to death and inflict a grievous punishment upon you." And 44:20. "I have taken refuge in my Lord and your Lord against your stoning me to death." And so those verses will be vibrated, and we'll see what will come of that. We'll see what will come of any particular thing. The point is the offering over. And let me turn here to the commentary of somebody who could not make it today. An escape to other realms, other times. Now 2 moments in time are parallel. During the tick of a clock, this year, for example, has had months of time to pass 100 years ago. During times of intense energy is a time to reflect, isolate, and remember who one is. One chooses what they are and what they become. Overcoming all odds and obstacles, remember who you are. Galvany to me represents the individual's true purpose and our place in the benefit of the greater we become. Things come to us in bits and pieces sometimes. The puzzle pieces begin to take shape. The picture becomes clear. The correct timing, sometimes things spiritually energetic, should be allowed to flow the natural way. One should not accept what they themselves do not control, for each individual stands alone. Inner darkness was once filled with light. The darkness is wisdom. Embrace the change, becoming. Those are my notes. I'd laid them, I had them laid out earlier as I had, okay, there wasn't much finding out about Galvany. Now, if you look in Iron Gates, I think it is, it talks about Galvany in a Humwawa sort of way. I looked within to find out Galvany, the secret hidden calling that exists in a person. But yet is what Galvany is to me. The secret calling which exists in a person just for that individual. They must find it themselves and take it from there. Only each individual can down get Galvany within. No individual can. And well, regardless of what universals there are particulars. That's why some magicians or devotees or whatever they're going to call themselves will say that some entities are male and are female, or it's really about the legions, kind of, but there's going to be particulars to each. And each has to do their own spiritual work. We're not just out there claiming and, that's it, right? Inner darkness was once filled with light, is now dark. Embrace the change. Welcome it. The heartbeat quickens. The inner darkness shines. Brighter, becoming. Now, like a Z and a backward Z with the U below, kind of a deconstruction of the sigil, kind of like a cross, three on the outer, the one inner left out, pointed at each other, a second line going across, kind of a half line towards the inner side, the U with the dot, so another sigil, so return, becoming. And hold on, some thoughts on the descent. I don't know, maybe some sort of connections that doesn't want to be broken, natural occurrences, realizations, reversals, layers of realms. Once a labyrinth leading to immortality, simple, elementary, yet profound, sort of a peacock snake thing going on. And hold on, what's this? Discover the answers yourself through decades long experience and practice. Called these personal. Walton Shong is discovering their own answers concerning themselves, life, existence, the occult, the nature of reality, developing their own unsure nature. Don't just accept the norms and answers of others or their limits. Self-awareness to access the inner core. One must work through the outer core, which forms a labyrinth. What is the rite of abyss? Making one, if not already. Empathy is knowing. Through empathy, one gains access to the abyss. R. Parker, the septenary and the DOS and life after death in the esoteric philosophy of the Order Nine Angles, 2013. The nature of reality in attainable, a causal existence beyond our mortal death. And too many rely on others' writings when we have access ourselves. The ancient planets and how Christianity kind of reached into the same place. The peacock angel idea. Oh, okay, that was what that symbol was about. I'm not sure if that relates, but I'm sharing it nonetheless. Um, and the work is not entirely one size fits all. Sometimes there's a point that you need to bend or break and uh, direct a rotation around it. And a person needs to work beyond the plans of the others. There's separate worlds working at once, separate dimensions. Some things might not make sense when they come, but they make sense over time. And you can form a diagram that relates to how others messed up so you don't mess up in those ways. And so you can see with different levels of yourself, basically. And every action matters, every thought matters, every thing works. Um, Form a solid foundation instead of a shifty one. Find true power rather than mundane power. Um, and I think that's where the notes of things stop without going through, without trying to judge through every thing in the past month and a half since I've been working on these things, because it's important to treat these things like a grimoire, that you work towards the main ritual, and that is a ritual unto itself. The Galbani chant, the Mahabhaksvi Taz is Yemer Volps Ver Zero Z. Did I say that one right? Hold on. I think I may have said the number or the order of that right. The Mahabhaksvi Taz is Yemer Volps Zero Z. Punish it. Punish it. That will go in where I feel that will go in. I may break into glossolalia. We must strive for the existence and future of our people and our children. The drill sergeant Gray chant. I will definitely try to work in forming a trance on these chants alone. And well, warm fur, glue, glue, tis, zorg. And that, of course, relates to the season. And feel free to comment more or less how you please.